You're listening to 5 Things with Lisa Birnbach.
Hi, it's Lisa Birnbach. I am taping this today on the first day of the Harvey Weinstein trial that you probably won't hear about very much because it's coinciding with, of course, the impeachment. Nevertheless, for many, many, many people, this is a day that they have been waiting for, and there is the hope that justice in some form can be served now. Especially interested in this process is my guest today, Lucia Evans. Lucia is a beautiful young woman who fits exactly what my kids say about Middlebury. Oh, Mom, I'm not applying. You have to be very beautiful, very smart, and very athletic. Ding, ding, ding. She checks all the boxes. While she was a rising senior at Middlebury, how many years ago?
Oh my gosh, I'm 36 now, so quite a few years
Get
ago.
out.
I know.
So that many years ago, she met Harvey Weinstein. She was a child, almost. A beautiful, athletic, very smart Middlebury child. And she, too, unfortunately, was harassed to the point of an unbearable experience that she has spent the ensuing years, honestly, trying to put behind her. You have a company that is a brand advisor that does marketing.
Yep.
For
So I do marketing consulting for small businesses, for agencies, for personal brands. So say you wanted to be an Instagram influencer.
Yeah, which I do.
Great. Well,
Okay.
we'll do it. We'll do it.
Okay.
We'll give you all the tips. You can be a niche Instagram influencer, really in any type of, if
It's
you want to start
gonna be
a whole new line of work. Quilting, there are the chicken influencers that have chickens and they have cocktails with the chickens. There's all kinds.
So there are many opportunities.
You could
for
start
me.
a whole new life.
Okay, that may be. That may be. It's actually appealing. I mean, Dr. Pimple Popper can only go so far. Anyway, and Lucia was the woman who the Manhattan DA pushed to come out of her silence and to bring your case to criminal court. Lucia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. I'm thrilled to be here.
I know that at a certain point, rehashing is awful and feels like you're repeating yourself. But your situation is unique amongst the 100 plus, and I'm sure that's not even close to the number, of women who have been allegedly abused by Harvey Weinstein. And one of the biggest questions is, why was he not brought to justice earlier? So when you were approached, I mean, your story is so dramatic. You were at home with your husband, who I assume is handsome, tall, athletic, and smart. Did he go to Middlebury?
He did not go to Middlebury. He actually is athletic. I just look athletic. So it's our little secret.
Wow.
He actually is a fantastic athlete. But yes, we were home together. This was after I went on record with Ronan for his first New Yorker article in October 2017. And I, as you said, after years and years of trying to push it down, trying to put it behind me, I did tell, a handful of people over the years, but had not told my parents and had not obviously told any reporters. Had not gone to the police, never even thought about it, right? I think, you can understand as a woman, it's hard to think you'll ever get justice for anything, and you always blame yourself when something happens to you when you're younger. Anyway, so yeah, we were, the article had just come out and kind of the waves were starting to break around, the Me Too movement was picking up steam again. And I heard it, we heard a knock on our door, and it was a few NYPD detectives who came
driven through the night
from my parents' house in upstate New York to come and tell me that I was the only one who could put him in jail and that I needed to get out of town for my safety. And it's really it's so surreal to hear that when when that happens to you.
You think, wait, this is movie talk.
Yes, I decided not to become an actress, so I wouldn't have to deal with this type of thing.
With this drama.
I know.
Lucia, they were telling you to get out of town because what? Somebody, some goon that Harvey had hired would try to hurt you?
They didn't say, and they might have been exaggerating, but since I was the only one at that point who had any valid criminal charges against him, I mean, I was at risk in their mind. So that's why they told us to leave. And we did. And I wouldn't talk to them without finding a lawyer, obviously, and ended up finding a fantastic lawyer who I love, who I have to this day. But it was just overwhelming, right? And because this is something that I haven't dealt with for so long, and I didn't know if I wanted to keep dealing with it because I told my story. I hoped it helped people, and I thought I heard a lot since then, and at that point, you did a great job. You don't have to do anything else, and you shouldn't have to, right? You shouldn't have to do anything you don't want to do, of course.
Look, but you were the victim of a heinous crime, and you told the truth about it to a vetted, respected reporter. Why should your life be in danger? In fact, your life should be better.
I know.
Seriously, you've unburdened yourself.
Yes.
Finally, even though it probably caused your parents a great deal of pain, at least now it was out in the open and you should be free.
Yes, you're exactly right. And I do feel like that is what happens, and it has. Ultimately, I feel that way. I do feel like after these past 2 years, I do feel free, and I do feel like I've done the right thing. But for a long time in there, I did not feel that way necessarily. It was a lot of ups and downs, and because you're then sometimes forced to make all these decisions you never thought you'd have to make, right? So it's like telling the truth basically opened me up to a whole new kind of web of drama and intrigue and and re-traumatizing myself.
Of course.
And it was a really tough time, and I
imagine that tough time is ongoing for you.
Yes.
So what happened, and this is a very complicated story, and I've read about you to prepare all over the place. The police department, NYPD, heard your story, read your story, believed you. Why did they say it was you? And how did you feel knowing that there were possibly hundreds of other women who had been abused by this monster, that you had to do it? It was all on you. How could they tell you that? And what did that mean?
Yeah, it was such a strange thing to hear because I don't know what effect they wanted that to have. I'm sure they wanted me to feel empowered and good about that, but
that would have scared the pants off of me.
It scared the shit out of me, and it wasn't. I mean, and I just said, I cannot be the only one, and I didn't know at that point that there would be 100+ women who would, also come forward with.
Well, you helped them.
And thank goodness. And I'm so glad that I could. That's what I'm most happy about, is that I could help other people. And I never even could have conceived that I could do that. And, it's just, you think your life is one way and then you end up making an impact on someone. And it just opens you up to a feeling that you couldn't have imagined. I mean, that's what life is about, and it's phenomenal.
That's because you're phenomenal. I mean, a lot of people in your situation would be, I would think, furious, bitter, would be outside the courthouse right now, protesting, screaming. And a lot of women do feel that way.
Yes, that's great, and they should. And I'm angry. I'm angry too. I've gone through all of the stages of grief at this point, right? And
you're a Kubler-Ross scrapbook.
And sometimes you just need to go on with your life, and I need to work. I need to make a living. Sometimes I need to shut this out and not look at my email and not respond to the email chain with all of the amazing other silence breakers on it, because I just have to focus on the day to day, and that's fine too. We can't always go back to those places all the time, right?
And your, let me call it heroism, is not something you chose. This is not a circumstance. I'm sure when you were a younger woman, and you still are very young, you thought, oh, I'll be an actress, or I'll be a lawyer, or I'll do human rights, or I'll translate German.
Yeah. You never think that this is what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be a victim, and then I'll be a victims' rights activist.
I know.
I mean, right?
It's really you never think that ever. That I mean, I can never even conceived of this ever happening in the macro sense with him, given how much power he had back then. But I think you raised a good point about why people come forward and all the people that say, oh, she's in it for X, Y, or Z. There's nothing. There's no. We have no ulterior motives here. Like, you actually think that we'd want to go through this, as your friend did, right? As Eugene Carroll has done. I mean, all of these people. Does anyone actually think that we want to go through this, this blame and this horrible? I mean, all this attention, and it's not.
Yeah, I guess what people don't understand until they're in the middle of it or close to it is that when you are named. And this may only be a function of digital cyber society. You are suddenly a giant punching bag. There's a target on you. People who don't know you, who don't know the story, who haven't even met you, are calling you horrible names. Oh. They're saying you asked for it. They call you a slut. They say you only want money. And the last thing you want is to be associated with this.
Of course. I mean, it's everything you have been trying to avoid the entire time you've been trying. I was trying to, just move on with my life and pretend it didn't happen. You know, it's everything you don't want to happen.
Can you, I feel badly asking, but can you explain to us why you were the, victim zero, and then why you were booted out?
Yeah, I'll try to explain in as quick terms as I can. Basically, obviously the NYPD they were trying to find other people to be involved in the case. And obviously the more people are involved, the stronger the case, and the less likely it is that something could happen like it happened to me and a case gets dropped, and then what do you have? So they were trying to find other people. Before they did, or in the meantime, as they were trying to find other people, there was a prosecutor on the DA side who I really wasn't connecting with. I recently when I spoke to someone else, I told them the story about her calling us Harvey's girls, and it was very off-putting, and I didn't feel like she could, resonate with the jury, win the trial. I didn't feel like she could represent me or other people who would be part of the case too. So I actually got her. My lawyer and I got her removed from the case, and petitioned Cy Vance to remove her, which he did, and then put Joan Aluzzi on, the new prosecutor. And in that time, the DA and still the NYPD and the DA do not speak to each other. They're not connecting with each other. They're not communicating. And
they could help each other build the case.
I mean, you would think they would, yes. But so I noticed kind of a lot of discord between the NYPD and the DA, and I was the NYPD's kind of first witness, right? I wasn't kind of found or cultivated by the DA. I kind of came from the NYPD side, so maybe the DA always thought, oh, she's the NYPD's person, whatever. It didn't matter. I heard over and over that I was I had a really strong case, and when others joined me, that I had the strongest case of all of them, and that they believed me, and it was completely fine. And as I was deciding whether or not to come forward, I was just so stressed out that I ended up having a seizure and breaking my foot.
Oh no!
And I went into the DA's office with my huge cast on, and and it's hard in New York when you're in New York and you have to walk around with
with all the crowds.
Now I know. Yes, now I know. Gosh, I feel so bad for people that have to do that. It is so hard. Even the weeks that I had to walk around with that, and And I said, look at what happens to me when I'm part of this. Obviously my brain cannot handle the stress of this. But even then, I decided to do it and to be part of the case. And they had found other people to be involved with me. And I felt as good as I could feel about it. And what ended up happening was the reason on paper why they dismissed my charge was the detective who I was very close to after, a year of him, having my back and supporting me and, being my advocate. And I had given the DA and the detectives the information of the girl that I was with when I met Harvey Weinstein. She was with me, and I'd gone to college with her. She wasn't a close friend, but she was a friend from college, kind of, that I then hung out with in the summer in New York. And she had been fact-checked by Ronan. He had, his team had interviewed her and fact-checked her against, the story I told. Obviously she's not a witness. She wasn't there when the assault occurred, but she was there when I met him. So everything checked out. She had the same exact story as me, but then she changed her story after she talked to Ronan and Ronan's people, and when she talked to the NYPD, she changed her story. And the detective said something like, I don't know exactly what he said, but something like, you can't change your story. You should stick with your original story, which you cannot say to a witness, obviously, because you have to let them talk, right? And of course, he doesn't want her to change the story, but it's not his. It's not his call. It's not on him, right? And so it was because of that, because the detective said that she shouldn't change her stories because of what he said, that my case got dismissed.
So it had nothing to do with you.
No. And behind closed doors, Cy Vance told a bunch of reporters, we still believe Lucia. We're fully supportive of her, but they never said that in public. They never have ever come out and said, like, we believe her. And I don't need it at this point, but it's really tough to trust.
Oh my God.
And I obviously hope they win. Of course I hope that they put him in jail. Of course I do. But it's really tough to have a lot of faith in the DA when they treated me the way they did, right?
Did you and your lawyer ever discuss doing your own lawsuit?
We can't do anything until
this case?
Yes, until the criminal case is done. But we were always really just focused on the criminal case, and we weren't focused on
making money off of this.
That wasn't our focus and mindset.
Your focus was
we wanted
to put him in jail.
We were trying to do that, and it was once I decided to be part of it. And she was right there with me when I had to go take a walk through his old office where it occurred, which was just so horrible. And obviously, going back to the scene of where that happened,
of course,
for anyone that's been through this is a nightmare. And yeah, so we're kind of, and we're still, we're just focused on what's right in front of us now and seeing how we can help. But I really feel for those women that are part of it, because
the thing, Lucia, that I have learned from reading the articles, from reading Catch and Kill, Ronan's book, is that all the bad guys are interwoven with one another. They really are. You were probably not knowing it because you were up in Vermont studying the mountains and languages. And what did you major in?
Literature and theater and French minor. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
If you don't go to Middlebury not take a language.
No,
come on. Of course not, because it helps when you're beautiful, tall, and athletic. But I have to tell you, I tried to get a teaching position there for the January term. For right now,
yes,
I was waitlisted. They didn't even reject me. They waitlisted me as if I were another Westchester high school senior. I don't even. Okay. I'm just not that good looking. But anyway,
yes, you look amazing.
No, but anyway, Lucia, there is this feeling that all the bad guys are working in cahoots with one another to shame, humiliate, punish, and basically in a way, murder the essence of all the victims who were already victimized by having been abused by this horrible person.
Yes, it really is a web of these people, and it's crazy how you see the same names over and over.
I know,
and you see the same names pop up. I told you before we started taping that a woman, one of the DAs that was on my case, and a lot of them left right after I left, but one of them, I then saw her, her name next to something that said she had helped, dismiss some charges against Jeffrey Epstein. And so it's like, but she was the only one I actually trusted. I was like, wow, I shouldn't have, but all these people.
Well,
and
this
not
is
only,
the thing.
It's this, it is really, and Ronan is doing, and other reporters are doing a great job of starting to try to unravel this, right? Because I hope that it's something that, like a bad piece of knitting that you can pull a thread and it will all come falling apart.
Well, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? I mean, Lucia, Jeffrey Epstein and his world were this world. Now, we still haven't read about the relationship between Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein, but we will. There's no doubt in my mind that because there were a lot of movie events that Jeffrey Epstein went to through the publicist, Peggy Siegel, who was Harvey's publicist.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Rudolph Giuliani.
He was my Middlebury graduation speaker. I fell asleep at the beginning of his speech, and I woke up right as it ended. I was like, oh, that's perfect timing.
Well, so Rudy Giuliani, who was the speaker at your graduation, was hired by the Weinsteins to dig up dirt on the women. And probably Lev Parnas was hanging out at Miramax too. I mean, it's so interwoven.
It's so interwoven.
And then we read, as we were following the story, that David Boies, the lawyer who was representing Harvey, who we all thought was so great because he represented the Democrats in Al Gore versus Bush. He helped argue the same-sex marriage at the Supreme Court. So we think David Boies is some kind of progressive, wonderful hero. And he turns out to be hiring the Mossad spies to destroy every person with a complaint.
Completely. I mean, I was not.
It could make you hate men. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, no, for sure. Yeah. I mean, if I didn't have so many amazing men in my life, I would absolutely hate men but luckily I have some amazing men, and men have been some of my biggest supporters through this, which is interesting. But it is interesting.
The idea of trust, right?
Yes.
How do you even learn to trust people after what you've been through?
I definitely don't trust anybody new. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, to your point, this web of people that kind of, and I see what they've done to these women because I'm now very close to some of them who are involved, and have seen the way that, not being able to trust even, your own Wi-Fi network, your own, is my phone secure? Is someone listening? I mean, they don't trust. They are, these people have messed with them as they should because they really were tracking them, right? And tapping their phones and reading their emails and pretending to be people they weren't. I mean, they infiltrated their lives in some cases. And they only didn't do that with me because my article, my piece of Ronan's article I came on at the very end, and they didn't even know I existed. So I'm not an actress, right? So they didn't know who I was, but also I was just so late to the game that I kind of managed to avoid some of the horrors that these other women.
So if you don't mind, take us back to when you're 22. You're just waking up from Rudolph Giuliani's graduation speech. You graduate from beautiful Middlebury College, and at this point you're moving on, right?
Yes.
Or were you still, I don't mean to diminish.
No.
Were you able to move on, or was it? No.
I had so many issues in my 20s because of this, and and beyond, right? I mean, it really eroded my confidence for so long. And I kind of saw everything through a cloud, whether it was depression, and, definitely have experienced that throughout the years as well. Sometimes it was just, it just felt like the world was a little less bright, and it felt like that really until I talked to Ronan and told my parents, and then this all happened.
Well, and also your tormentor was somebody famous. So probably you would go about your life. Were you doing branding and stuff at that point?
So I did try to be an actor for, I guess, about a year or so after college, but I really couldn't do it. I mean, I couldn't emote. I couldn't express myself in that way. And as an actor, you really have to be able to be honest with yourself and real and honest with your emotions and go to that place. And I could not go there, because when I did, the truth kind of started bubbling up again, and I would tell people throughout the years about this, but I tried to act and I could not do it. And so then started to do marketing because it fulfilled the same type of desire in me around just getting people to feel something real. And I always loved kind of getting to that kernel of truth. And I could tell stories. And that's what as a writer, I do that. And as a branding marketing advisor, I do that as well. But I could tell stories through marketing in a way that I felt like fulfilled that side of me that wanted to act, which was it was lucky for me that I found it. But
truly, yes. So you're going through your life and you meet the man you marry, and all of that on one side of the ledger is really good. And then you want to go to the movies, and then you see the logo.
I couldn't go to the movies, and I always loved watching the Oscars. I haven't been able to watch them since. Honestly,
I truly understand.
I mean, now he's not there, thank goodness, at this point. So I can, but all the things I used to love, a lot of the things I used to love, I couldn't do.
Yeah.
And people could see it. I mean, my husband could see that he saw pictures of me as a kid, and he saw videos of me, and I was just a different person, and I was so confident and just self-assured. And he said, everything about you is different now. Your voice is different. You act differently. So, what happened to you that completely just switched you? And, and I couldn't even tell him in very detailed terms what had happened, because it's tough to tell someone that you're close to, especially when you live a few blocks away from the person that did that to you.
Right.
Where I used to live in New York.
Right.
I used to see him all the time.
You did?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
even after the fact?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I lived in the West Village, and he lived a few blocks up. And I remember walking my dog down a street, and she veered down Bank Street, and I was like, not Bank Street. That was where he lived, and I was trying to get her to. And she decided to poop right across the street from where he was getting in a town car with his wife and kids. And I just remember just waiting for my dog to finish, going to the bathroom. I was like, this is so fitting. But I was staring at them get into the town car, and I was just like, does she even know what this person is?
I want to say, I knew him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. And I have to say that while he's hideous to look at, it's not his fault. He was born that way. His personality was aggressive, mean, ADD like crazy, bullying people. You try to understand why somebody's such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And you figure, well, maybe he was unpopular. Maybe he's getting back at womankind because nobody took him seriously until he was successful. But you know what? I feel that women who unfortunately had the bad luck of meeting him, if he put all his energy on you for even half an hour and told you that he could make you a star, and told you would have an audition, and told you that you remind him of Gwyneth Paltrow, or whatever it was he was saying, that of course you would believe it. Of course you would. And honestly, I heard him once or twice talk about movies in such a way that he was quite charismatic and charming. So for everyone who says, oh, gross, it was your fault,
there's a reason why someone's a sociopath. They are convincing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
I'm not saying he is. I don't know what he is, but you're right. I mean, and it's I was really smart, even though, and I still am, but even though I was just so young, right? So
yes,
of course,
a child.
Of course, I'm going to, if someone, says, "Oh, come to my office during the day," and you'll introduce you to my casting director, who's a woman,
right?
And she'll show you some scripts. I was
right.
like, "That's great." Like,
right.
What? It's during the day. What's going to happen there? I wasn't, not like it's wrong to go to someone's hotel room, but it wasn't the situation.
Right.
And nothing's wrong with that either, because you still doesn't give anyone the right to do anything that you wouldn't want to do. But I mean, yes, you're right. Of course, it's really, really tough. And he always preyed on that age, right, where you were very susceptible to, you weren't, as experienced maybe like I was,
right.
You weren't as, you just, you trusted people a little bit more.
Well, and he used to say things like, "I swear on my children's life." So when I heard the tape with the actress.
I know, Ambra.
Ambra.
Amazing.
And so when someone swears on their kid's life, you sort of think, oh, Okay. Nobody does that casually.
I don't have kids yet, and I would never do that anyway.
Right.
I mean, it's like a ridiculous thing to do.
It's
and
a
also,
ridiculous
yes,
thing
you're right.
to say.
It's obviously, you can't trust anyone and anything people say some of the time. And some people I just think are bad people, and I never used to think that. Really, I used to think that some people had some good in them, but I don't know.
I don't know either. And you know what, Lucia? That's heartbreaking to me that somebody with your spirit and your kindness could end up feeling quite embittered about the human race, honestly, because of what happened to you. And how it was politicized, and
I know
the police were
on
one side and the district attorney's office is on the other, and who do you trust? And
I know. I mean,
and you're a 30-some-odd-year-old young woman who has to have a lawyer on retainer. I mean, that's not normal either.
It's insane what we have to go through to find justice, and I don't blame anyone who doesn't want to go through this, because it is, I mean, you saw what happened to me, and it's so much worse for women of color. I mean, I had it, right? I mean, it is so much worse for others.
True.
Much, 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 like LGBT community. I mean, the people, marginalized communities, it is so much harder to find justice, and I just hope that people don't give up hope and don't stop trying, because there's no way anything can change unless we keep trying to make a difference, even though the system is incredibly flawed and it's a nightmare to deal with. I just hope people don't stop trying.
What do you make of the fact that these NDAs, you must have thought a lot about it? I mean, here are some women who seem feisty and strong and activist, and they accepted a payout. Now, of course, as you said, they're all young, they're all kind of naive. Nobody has any money at that stage. Mm-hmm. The money is too tempting to turn down. For poor Ambra,
I know.
Her mother, her parents, her family situation was crummy.
I totally see why they did.
And I totally see why she took the money.
But she does not feel good about it now. And I don't think you ever do. I have never gotten any amount of money from anybody, right? I mean, but I see why you would do it, and then I see why it would make you feel like shit.
Well, you want to make the other person hurt. And maybe if you can't bring them to criminal court, you can hurt them financially. It infuriates me that the $25 million settlement didn't even come from his wallet. Why is that okay?
It's not okay. I mean, and such a big percentage of that total amount is going to lawyers' fees. I'm not part of that settlement right now, but for people who don't know, I guess there's a large group of women, because Harvey allegedly abused such a large group of women, who will be sharing in a payout. I mean, maybe. I don't know if it's even going to happen. One of the women said the funniest thing to me on the phone when we were talking. She's like, well, that might buy me a nice dinner, but it's not going to buy me much else. And I don't even know. I mean, apparently there's a system they have to kind of figure out who gets a bigger percentage or a smaller percentage of it. And I don't know what their criteria is.
Did he touch you, or did you have to watch him masturbate?
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea what any of that criteria is. I'm not involved in that right now at all. But a lot of these women have cases or crimes or allegations that are outside the criminal and civil statute of limitations. So this is their only chance to get something from it. So I totally understand why they would want to be part of it. Even though it is embarrassingly low and it's shocking and horrifying, they feel like they have no other choice at this point, right? So I get that too.
Right. And they've also incurred expenses with lawyers, and they've changed their lives, and they had to move.
Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's something that no one realizes. And every time, I wasn't part of the group that was at the courthouse the first day, but a lot of women that are part of this were, and we talked after, and they said, yeah, every time you're going in front of the press, you're going on camera, you have to get your hair done, you have to get your makeup done, you need a blowout, you maybe want to wear a different outfit than you were last time. And all these things we pay for ourselves. Right. All the travel that I pay for, coming up to New York, going back home, everything, we're paying for all this out of our own pocket. And most of us none of us are wealthy, I don't think. I'm certainly not. And many of us aren't working. I'm not an actress at all, but many of the actresses aren't even working actresses.
Right, they've been
blackballed.
He put
them out of business.
Right.
So it is so hard for us to constantly pay for all these things, and we're not asking for anything, right? But it's like no one is. It's just really, it's unfortunate that we, have to keep on, to your point, incurring all these expenses.
Well, how about when the cops said you have to go away? Were they going to pay for you to stay in a hotel in another state? Were they going to pay for your security? Were they going to pay to scrub your internet? Were they going to change your password?
Luckily the cops actually did, whenever I needed to go up for interviews or to, go on the record or to talk to them, they did pay for my travel, unlike the DA that still owes me a lot of money. And I keep emailing them about it, but they never respond. Apparently they have other things to worry about right now. But it's like, even, $1,000 is a lot of money to me because I'm not wealthy. I'm just trying to make a living, right? And like all of us. And it's just unfortunate that, it's just so stupid to me that, that this is where we are. This is where we are. It is.
Well, I guess you have a choice to smile and say this is stupid or to be undone by it. And I think you're an amazing woman for being so upbeat.
I'm not
and so
always
positive.
Smiling, so I'm happy to be here. But it is, it's always an emotional roller coaster. And sometimes
course. And just before we get to your 5 things, Lucia, how does this experience and people now knowing that you are a silence breaker, which is an honorable feather in your cap, if and that's putting it mildly, how do people feel who are your clients and your potential clients about your role in this big story?
It is. I'm so thankful. I would never have been able to do this if I hadn't been on my own and left the corporate world, because that environment just is not conducive to being open and honest, right? It's not in corporate HR's best interest to have someone who is telling the truth and who's in the public eye. Right. And I get that. If I hadn't left, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But luckily I had, and my clients are, they're amazing because they're all so supportive. And a lot of them are small businesses and, either startups or family-run businesses, or all my clients are in New York. They're all, local to New York businesses. And I just love that they've continued to trust me, and that they see the value that I bring them, even when, one day I might be feeling a little down, or they ask me how I'm doing, and even just asking me how I'm doing. It's like, it is just so wonderful to have the types of clients I have.
That's cool.
Shout out to Frames Bowling Lounge and Piccolina, who is they're a startup that make empowering clothes for young girls, and those are my 2 small business clients that I just want to shout out because I just love and value them.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Okay, what I love is your list of 5 things.
This was so hard to start. It's hard to get yourself in a positive frame of mind.
Yeah.
And but once I started, I couldn't stop and I had to cut it down. So thank you for giving me the chance to think positively. And also I was happy that I came up with more than 5 and I had to cut it down.
Yeah, no, that's a great feeling, isn't it? Oh, life sucks. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, nobody believes me. I just want to go home. Exactly. And then suddenly there are 8 things that you have to figure out. Yeah,
it's amazing.
So let's do number 1.
Okay, number 1. My number 1 favorite thing is Lacrima del Morro d'Alba wine, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing incorrectly, but it's an Italian wine from a region called Le Marche, and it's all the way on the east side of Italy. No one really by the coast. Not many people know about it. It's not very touristy. It's actually a very controversial wine, and if you Google it, it's named. There's an article in Wine Spectator or something that says it's someone's least favorite wine they've ever tried.
Wow!
But I've been to Italy a whole bunch, and my husband and I had this once at a tiny little. It was like one of those little inns or agriturismos in Tuscany, and it tastes like flowers. I can't describe it. It's so delicious. If you can find it, you should definitely try it. I haven't been able to find it, but we went back to the vineyard to this one region specifically on a pilgrimage to find this wine.
And you did.
And we bought a whole bunch of it, and we have a few bottles left, and it is fantastic.
Is it red or white?
It's red.
Ah, okay.
Yes. Are you a red drinker?
I'm a red drinker.
I mean, yes. I wish I could say I had a wine cellar full of it like Joel's time, but I don't yet. I don't yet have that.
Joel. Yeah, Joel.
Joel, yes. I'm jealous of that. But
okay, that's great. And that is a note to myself to find it.
Find it, yes.
Number 2.
So my number 2 favorite thing are my dogs, Alfred and Georgia, who are my children by now.
Right.
And it's just lovely and I think people have said this on your podcast before, but animals just give you a different perspective and just take you out of your head and force you to live in the moment and force you to appreciate the moment. And I have a 10-year-old dog and a 1-year-old. And
oh, wow.
The 10-year-old is a very wise, sensitive girl dog, Georgia, and Alfred is a crazy, rambunctious little boy dog. And it is so sweet to see them, and she's getting to like her little brother, and it is just, I just absolutely love them.
And, unlike human children, you don't have to write a letter to get them admitted into some fancy nursery school.
I
know.
There
are advantages.
They don't talk back to me.
And they don't
kind of
talk
do.
back.
I don't just send them to college.
Right.
College, I hear, is very expensive.
Very. And they only get waitlisted at Middlebury.
Middlebury was the only college I applied for, and if my backup was Yale, how would I ever think that I would get into Yale if I didn't get into Middlebury?
Well, because it was different then.
It was different. I don't think any of us would have gone anywhere today.
No, that's for sure.
We would have needed a special skill or a differentiation,
or
right?
be perfect at everything.
Everything, yes.
Yeah.
No.
Number 3.
My third favorite thing is true crime. So
believe it or not,
right?
Yeah.
Podcast shows, and embarrassingly, the ID channel, which is for a lot. I think I just picture like all of America's Housewives watching it, and me, and that's basically it. Not like there's anything wrong with that, but it's it's a very like female centric.
That's
channel.
The one that has Susan Lucci on it.
Yes, it's
right.
like, evil lives here, homicide hunter. I mean, it is for some reason it's a big stress reliever for me. And I've read articles I'm like, why do I like this so much? Why do
Right.
But I think what it does is it makes you feel safe. I don't like unsolved mysteries. I cannot deal with that.
Right.
Like I need to know what happens, and so I feel like I could prevent it if this ever happened to me.
Well, look, the most popular podcasts are crime stories.
I listened to all of them. Do you listen to any of them?
I've listened to S-Town, and I've listened to the Adnan Syed one, Serial.
Serial, yes, that one's amazing.
And Dirty John. Did you hear that?
Yes, I started listening to that. That was intense.
Oh,
my favorite murder is, you think you would love that one.
Oh, okay.
It's good. It's very good. And, but yeah, I mean, Dr. Death is good. There are so many good ones.
Right.
But
I know. Somehow they're comforting.
Yeah, somehow they're comforting.
Number 4.
My number 4 is potato chips from around the world. So I think you talked about potato chips last week.
Yes, I love them.
Yes. And whenever I travel, I love to just get the strangest potato chip flavors from around the world. They're the weirdest chip flavors.
Weirdest. Okay. So what is the weirdest you've had?
The weirdest I've had, like biscuits and gravy, like roast chicken.
I've had.
I love that. It's amazing.
I've had pickle flavor.
Yeah, pickle's great. They sell them here.
Yeah.
They sell them here. I was going to try to bring one to you, but I didn't think you'd want to be eating potato chips.
Well, you would be wrong there. What about, I've seen curried.
Oh, yeah. They're
curried
great.
Prawn.
Yes, phenomenal. Just very strange, but fantastic chip flavors. And I think that my favorite thing to do when I travel is go to grocery stores, because you just find, like, this is how people actually shop, and you get the weirdest chip flavors, but also just this sense of the real people that live there in a way that you don't if you go out to a fancy restaurant.
Correct.
Which I also like to do. But I mean, the grocery stores and the potato chip aisles are my favorite.
Yeah, I agree.
Fun.
That's great. And number 5.
So this one is hard to kind of put into words, but it's actually a feeling. So, and I think you probably, as a writer, understand this feeling too, but it's that feeling of trusting the process and knowing that everything is going to work out as you are going through some type of creative problem solving. So it's like, when you're writing something and you don't know how it's going to end, but you just know that you're going to find a way to make it great, and it's going to be perfect, and it's going to be exactly what it needs to be. And it's just this feeling I've always had, and I've had it with my clients too, and people are freaking out around me, and just stay calm and everything's going to be fine. It's not the end of the world. We're just going to solve it. And you just know ahead of time that it's going to work out.
Yeah, that is a good feeling.
It's a great feeling. It's not that common, but it is when it happens. It's lovely.
When I was at the end of any school term, I'd think, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be able to study for this test. I'm not going to be able to write the 3 papers. I'm not going to be. And you think your head is going to explode. And then next thing you know, you've done it.
Yeah. Next thing you know, you've done it. It's a great feeling. Yeah.
Lucia Evans, it's a great experience to meet you. I salute you for your courage. I salute you for your positivity. And I'm very grateful that you came in today.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to 5 Things That Make Life Better with me, Lisa Birnbach. My guest this week has been Lucia Evans, marketing and branding advisor and a Me Too silence breaker, one of the original women to accuse Harvey Weinstein of sexual misconduct that ignited the Me Too movement in 2017. You can follow Lucia on Instagram at LuciaIOEvans or at her website at LuciaIOEvans.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, YouTube, and iHeartRadio, or wherever else you get your podcasts. My blog is at lisabirnbach.com, where you'll find links and photos to what we discussed today, and my 5 things will be on the blog. This podcast is produced in New York City by thefieldtv.com. My engineer is Jimmy Regan. My team is Espresso Rucci, Michael Portboak, Go Haft, and Sam Haft. Until next week, stay warm, act natural. Bye-bye.
That was 5 Things with Lisa Birnbach. New episodes every Friday, if she remembers.